Welcome back to the lab. Today we are taking a look at the Prechen HD-140 portable monitor. This is a 14-inch screen with a resolution of 1920 by 1200. I got this on AliExpress for about $60 US. It has an IPS screen which also has touch operation. I mainly plan to use it as a lab monitor for testing PCs and connecting measurement equipment, for example an oscilloscope or microscope. However, in the last test I will also try using it as a camera monitor. My goal was to find the cheapest 14-inch portable monitor that had a full-size HDMI connector, so I can minimize the use of special mini and micro HDMI cables and adapters. I also wanted it to have touch operation, since that may be handy when testing a computer without having to connect a mouse. So given those requirements, this was the monitor I selected. But was it a good choice? Well, that's what we are here to find out. At the end of the video, I will also compare this to my Arzopa 16-inch portable monitor. Is this monitor better? Well, stick around to find out. This box wasn't the most beautiful one I ever seen, but let's not judge the box by its covers or whatever. Let's see what's inside. So here we have the screen itself. We will have a look at that later. And then we get some instructions, more instructions, cable that is USB-A to USB-C, another cable that is also the same, power adapter for USB-A, and cable that is USB-C to USB-C, and one more cable, and this one is HDMI to HDMI. Now let's open the screen and have a closer look. Okay, so here we have headphones, USB-C, USB-C and HDMI. And on the other side we have buttons and USB-A. At the bottom seems to be speakers, top nothing, and then you have the kickstand here. Let's first try the use case where we connect the monitor to a laptop. And let's use the USB-C cable that came with this monitor. So there's two ports here. Let's try the top one first. And then we'll connect it to the laptop. Welcome, please wait. Okay, so let's see if we get the picture here. Okay, and I set the resolution to 1920 by 1200 on this screen now. We have some adjustments to make here. There's 3 buttons over here. Top one, you can adjust the volume. And I noticed this is actually touch controls, which is kind of nice. Second button gives us these controls, which includes brightness, so it can go brighter actually. Then you have contrast and other picture controls here. You can also go here where we have color controls. Here we have some profiles. I guess this is a television profile or something like that. This is for gaming probably. And then we have the different inputs and a setting for FreeSync that we can turn on or off. And that's it for those settings. The bottom button will bring up the brightness. And it looks like the touchscreen function is actually working with just the single USB-C cable. So that's nice. Let's also do a quick test of the built-in speakers here. Yeah, they work. Doesn't sound great, but for my purpose, this is definitely enough. Now we will test the case where we connect the monitor to a computer. And the computer in this case is this. It may not look like a regular computer, but it really is. It's just that I built it on this plexiglass plane. And if you want to see how that was done, I have a separate video about that build, and I will put a card so you can go and watch that. Now for this case, I connected the HDMI cable that came with the monitor to the computer and then to the monitor over here. so it's connected here. And since we don't get any power from HDMI, I also used the power adapter over here that came with the monitor. Then the USB-A to USB-C cable to power the monitor. Now let's turn on the PC and see if this works. Yeah, we got picture here. So this setup is working. Okay, so now it's booted into Windows. Let's test the touchscreen function here. And it's not working. And I think that's because there's no data connection between the computer and the screen. So because we just have power here and display here. So let's connect this other cable that came with the monitor. Let's connect it here and then connect it to the other USB-C port over here and see if we can get the touch function to work that way. So now that's connected. Let's try it. No, doesn't work. Okay. We could try also connecting the other way around, because this has a USB-A connector on this side. So let's try the USB-A from the monitor to the computer. And the computer has a USB-C port here. Let's connect that up like that and see if we can get the touch function to work. No, it doesn't work. Okay, so another option, I guess, is that we can connect the USB-C to USB-C cable that came with the monitor and connect that to the computer and then connect it to the monitor like this. And maybe now it will work. No, it still doesn't work. Okay. Well, yeah, okay. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I mean, everything else has failed now, so let's read the manual. Okay. When you connect to your desktop with HDMI port, okay. When only using HDMI to HDMI for connection, the touch function will not work. Yeah, I noticed that. USB-A end must be plugged into your desktop PC, will deliver power and touch signal. Okay, so let's try it like they said in the manual. Okay, so we don't need the external power from the power brick. Let's disconnect that then. Okay, and then let's get rid of this. And they said we should use USB-A in the PC and then USB-C to the monitor. And it should, yeah, that's cool. It will power it from the PC. And now will it work then? Yeah, now it works. Sometimes it pays off to read the manual. Now we will look at connecting this digital microscope to the portable monitor. And for this I used an HDMI cable here. So there's mini HDMI to regular HDMI. And let's connect power also from the power brick. And now let's turn on the microscope and see if this will work. No signal. Okay, and picture. Great, so we have a picture here. And if I look head on, doesn't look as good as the built-in screen. Let's try to focus on something here. Yeah, it works, but the built-in screen is brighter. Let's try to adjust this one, so we can go up in brightness. Yeah, that's a lot better. I noticed also if you do this, if you go up in the contrast, you get it even brighter. But of course you will lose some contrast. But in this case, I think these settings are the best. So now it's, yeah, I would say it's usable in this scenario. And we can also see the size difference here. So this is a 10-inch screen and this is a 14-inch screen. And there's a bit of difference in size. So if I want a larger picture, I could use this one. Let's try something else. I would say this is usable in this case, actually, even if it's not as bright as I would have wanted it. Now we will try to use the screen as a camera monitor. And this will be interesting because I have another portable screen that does not work with my camera. And my camera is the Sony A6700 and it has micro HDMI. So directly connecting this HDMI will not work. That's why I have this adapter here from full HDMI to micro HDMI. So let's connect it that way and connect it to the camera. So now the HDMI cable is connected to the camera, and now we need to connect the power cable here. So let's connect it and see if we can get the picture. And yeah, starting now. And oh yeah, we got picture and we got sound. That was unexpected. Okay, let's try to turn that down. Okay, so I got the sound off and that's better. And yeah, it's working. So I can see the picture here. This screen is not super bright, so I guess it could work in some cases, but let's see if we can turn the brightness up a bit here. No, it's at 100%, so we cannot. Okay, well, if I look straight on, it's quite okay, but as soon as you get an angle, it's not so bright, so it's not super great as a camera monitor, but it will work in some cases. I guess if I want a bigger picture, I can use this. So it does work as a camera monitor. Let's conclude with some final thoughts about the Prechen monitor. I already had this Arzopa 16-inch monitor, but I thought it took up a bit too much space on the workbench, and also it requires a mini HDMI cable. So let's compare the size. And yes, the Prechen is smaller. The Prechen is also lighter. I think mainly because it is made of plastic and the Arzopa is made of metal. So while the Arzopa feels more premium, the lighter Prechen monitor is better for me, as I will store it away and take it out again many times. The Arzopa is also thinner, however it has a mini HDMI port which I don't want. So I'm okay with the Prechen being thicker since it has a full-size HDMI port. The Arzopa seems to be a bit brighter to me, and also the viewing angle is better. With the Prechen, the brightness drops off quite fast with the viewing angle. So is the Prechen HD-140 the perfect lab monitor? I would say it's close. What I like is its features like touchscreen and full-size HDMI. It also works as a camera monitor, which is nice. What I don't like is that it takes up more space than I expected. On the other hand, a smaller monitor like a 13-inch may be too small to be useful. The other thing I don't like is that it is not that bright and the viewing angle is not great either. But it is still enough for most of my use cases, and at only $60 I would say it is still worth the money. What are you using as a monitor in your workspace? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, that's it for this video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like and consider subscribing. And you probably want to check out this other video next. So go ahead and click it, and I will see you there.